Hi, it's Steve, and I am here once again with Christine Padavon, the Paladina. Hello, Christine.
Hey Steve, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Um, you passed me something very interesting. This article and the main article being from Vigilant News, but obviously all the news sources have picked this up regarding the upset about President Trump's win uh, for 2024, and I obviously there's going to be other upsets too. We've got the Senate. The Senate was back in Republican hands, and it looks like the House is going to be the same way. And so, tell me a little bit what interested you about this subject, Steve. Just curious from a male perspective.
The subject is that liberal women are telling each other ways to poison their conservative husbands or boyfriends who voted for Trump.
Okay.
And this is under the heading of liberal women going nuts, which we will discuss at a later time. They're shaving their heads. They're not going to have sex anymore. They're not going to have babies anymore. And now they are actually contemplating murdering those of us who voted for President Trump. So, as wacky as that is, it's going to deserve another time and place for conversation. But you, being a detox expert, I think we need to get our defenses up immediately and give advice to those conservative men out there who happen to be in a relationship with a liberal woman and who may need to consider certain actions to take if they're concerned about getting poisoned.
Hmm.
So that's why I called upon you, and I'd like you to give us some advice. In particular, the news reports are talking about this aqua tofana
Right.
poison that's being recommended. What can you tell us about that, how to fight it, and in general, what precautions can men take if they are concerned about this?
Okay. Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a share screen. I think you can see it here. So let's look a little bit at what is the definition of aquafana. Okay.
Okay.
Just so people understand this. So there was this woman, 17th century Italy, upset. She's in a very bad relationship, and she created a poison. Now, aqua tofana, if you guys look here, it says it is just basically arsenic and lead. Okay, and a little bit of belladonna, which is a poisonous plant. All right, so this is again, we're talking heavy metals. We're not talking that this is something really strange or out of the ordinary in terms of how this is being created or how you get it or do it. Um, so one of the things I do want to point out is this is the concept of poisoning to either get out of a bad situation or punish someone who's hurting you or and things like that. This is not a new concept. This is we're talking about centuries, thousands of years, all that, right? When people poison their enemies and all of that. The thing that is, I think, a little disturbing, and I don't know if any of us know how this kind of got into this, conversation into the news, and then whoever's, starting this, is that people need to have just a little bit of discernment on this, that not it's not easy to go getting this stuff, right? I mean, not that it's impossible, okay? But I just want to kind of point that out to people that it's not like the easiest thing to go get. I mean, I'm not interested in knowing how to get it. I'm sure if I really was, I'd figure it out. But I'm not because I'm not into hurting people, right? And neither are you, right? So that's, we don't go looking around for how to get stuff like this. So in terms of when we look at the article, okay, how much of this is fear mongering? How much of it is to cause that concern to someone who is conservative, who say voted for Trump and whatever, whatever their decision was in terms of how they voted. And how many would really do this? Now, I think it's interesting, make people aware is that people that like these ladies posing for this picture, please, if they're really going to be poisoning somebody, they're not going to have their picture posted. Believe me, okay? They're doing that for clicks. They're doing that for whatever. That's, so people understand that. No one's going to pose that's actually going to be poisoning somebody for a massive photo that's going to go out nationally, okay? So I think we need to remember that. But I do want to let people know that because we've had so much toxicity out there, especially with all these CV, COVID-19 shots, millions and billions that have been put out there, up to, two shots with a booster, and the booster being actually even more deadly than the regular shots. There are people not thinking straight. There are people not being rational. And that is the big concern with anyone in a relationship if they are of, say, two opposing viewpoints. You know, they may there may be some anger and animosity. Now, and yeah, I know there's all this here. With this, again, I think it's more for getting clicks on their TikTok and all that. Obviously, I think a lot of it is that too, Steve. So we have to keep that in mind of people posing, doing this kind of stuff. Um, if they if they're really going to poison somebody, they know the 9 times out of 10, especially with forensics, they're not really going to get away with it. But what I do want to talk about, and I'll stop sharing for a second, is that I think we all know people that are in relationships where they have opposing viewpoints about politics, right? Um, I'm going to give an example of someone who, thankfully, thinks straight, regardless that she's very liberal leaning. And this is actually someone I'm pretty close to. Her husband passed away. I was a very close colleague of mine in the acting world, and he was conservative. He also saw from what I was telling him the inside story of what's going on with government and all that. And he was a big Trump supporter, so he saw the BS behind mainstream media and everything going on. His wife is the complete opposite. She's believing everything that mainstream, and they were big ABC, NBC news watchers, 6 o'clock news, all that stuff, all that paid advertising with pharma telling you to get COVID shots and blah, blah, blah. And she believes verbatim whatever she sees on the news. So when they started to say that Trump was fascist, Trump was this, Trump was that, she 100% totally in, totally in on it, right? And he was complete opposite. Now, they could have discussions and have disagreements about politics, and no way, shape, or form, and she would even say this, in a conversation, they agreed to disagree. Okay. They stayed very level-headed about it. They could have some, because I'd be there in the room with them, some very, I would say, volatile, back and forth about it. But in the end, when they would come, circle around it, it was, we're not going to hate each other because we have opposing viewpoints. All right. And a great famous example is Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver, longtime Democrat. She was born that way, right? Into a family of Democrats. He's always been conservative, all right, from a family of police officers and teachers and all of that. And they made it work for years. I mean, it wasn't the politics that put them apart. It was, his, affair. But so what I need to stress to people is when you see articles like this, and it's not to say this is not happening or could happen, right? Where someone could do this, say, okay, I'm not thrilled in this, relationship that they did this, and that they're being this idea is being put into their mind that anyone voting for Trump is a bad dude and we should get rid of them, right? Um, then here's my take on that. Okay. If you have concern in your relationship that the person that you're seeing is being manipulated by social media, okay, like this, and the person you think is there's going to be underlying, I'm just going to tell you, Steve, there's going to be underlying psychological language that they're going to say to you, like some maybe underlying digs that you can perceive the person has animosity towards you. I mean, to the point of wanting to think that they might want to harm you. So, one of the big things I encourage people to do is if you do feel there's this growing animosity in a new relationship and that there is kind of this vitriol or even innuendo about this, towards men, and then you're a man. I would say you should, if you're in a restaurant, at lunch or dinner, and I know this from what happened to my ex with this ex-girlfriend the suspects put in front of him, leave for the bathroom, and that's when the food or drink would be tampered with. I would not, I would not leave the table. Actually, you know what I would do? I would not even for a little while even have them cook a meal for you or do anything that was the symptoms you would see if the person was doing something to you to poison you. Here's your symptoms: nausea within 30 minutes to an hour of eating or drinking. Okay, because arsenic affects the gastrointestinal, so you're going to feel the nausea, okay, within that time frame. All right. Then it's either the diarrhea and the vomiting, okay, and elevated temperature, okay. That is a sure sign that you you've probably been poisoned, okay. That is to that's why I'm recommending to people, if you're going to have this kind of concern, and I recommend everybody, because it's flu season, it's COVID season, anyway, is stock up, right? You're going to stock up on some glutathione. You can get a bottle of activated charcoal. If you get hit after a date with somebody and you think, okay, I really, I'm starting not to feel well, and you don't know if it's just the restaurant food poisoning or it's your date or your spouse, and I would recommend that not making sure you have this bottle not shown or known to that person, keep it hidden somehow. I mean, so that they can't tamper with it. All right. And hit that hard. Do 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams immediately to protect your heart, protect your brain. And at that point, you could easily do a quick urine test within a day or two, even within a couple of weeks. That stuff, arsenic and lead, will still be showing in your urine just as a regular, because I don't think there's going to be any nano that these people are going to be using. I might be wrong. If they're just buying regular arsenic and lead from a lab or something, it's going to be just raw material. So I don't think they have to worry about that. And if they do see proof of that somewhere or anything else, then I think you just kind of say, okay, you might need to take a break.
in the
But I would
relationship.
encourage men, if they have that kind of situation, to try to get their own partner to do some detoxification because I would think, and I've seen this happen, once people are don't have all these toxins to manipulate their mind or anything like that, they will be actually be clearer thinking and not be thinking, okay, I need to bump off my partner or my boyfriend for how they voted.
Well, very good. Let me tell you what I hear you have brought to the table here, which I think is very good. If I can just adjust the focus for a second. Okay. So you're giving us some relationship advice and you're giving us some detox advice. And I like your point.
There you are, Steve.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I like
That's
your
cool.
point. I like your point, several of your points. First of all, you're mentioning that if people are in stable relationships and they have a foundation together, there's probably a less of a likelihood that your
Right.
longtime girlfriend or your wife is going to try to kill you because of your politics. Okay. However, we also acknowledge that women, especially these days, are being subjected to such anti-male and anti-Trump as the big white bad guy that you can't take that for granted. Understood. Number two, you're mentioning, I think we're also focusing on the single scene when people are dating, and in the single scene, people tend to go too far, too fast type of thing. And you may be in over your head before you know it, and you may not be cognizant of opportunities for somebody to hurt you, as you're saying, and at the table, putting something in drink. I get this, because you got other things on your mind. Okay, understood. So those folks need to think, and in a normal world, you don't think about you're being poisoned on your first date, but as you're saying, if somebody's giving signs of hostility towards men, towards Trumps, it doesn't mean you automatically assume they're out to get you. But I think you're right, the antenna need to be up, and there are explanations for their irrationality, ranging from their own toxicity to their brainwashing. I get all this, so it's good to be on the alert. And you've given us the gift of certain remedies, so quickly in case you unfortunately end up ill. So this is good. We're going to wrap it up here, but let's you and I stay in touch with this issue because it's going to keep popping up. And the
Mhm.
overall war on women and war on men is going to see, I'm sure, another front. And we're going to be faced with what years ago would have been inconceivable, people poisoning each other on dates, but that is the new normal that the bad guys want us to have. So our job is going to be, we're going to stay on top of this and keep advising people.
Yep,
Paladina, you've done
absolutely.
us a great gift today. I want to thank you for that. And I really look forward to the next time we have this discussion.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve.
You got it.
Thanks for bringing this topic up.